One thing that you learn early in your algebra course is that you can find the slope of a line if you are given 2 points. But when you figure out how to find the slope, then the next step is learning how to write the entire equation out in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So if we can find this part right here, our slope, this is great, and that's where you're going to start. That'll be one of the first skills you learn. But then how do we find the b, the y-intercept? I'm going to show you in this video. It's quite simple to do. There's a couple different ways to go about it, but I'm going to show you the way that I like. So step one, how do we find the slope of these 2 points? We need to find our change in y over our change in x. So these are our y values here and here. We're going to find the difference between them, and then we're going to find our change in our x values here and here with those 2 points. So I'm going to take -2 minus -9, put -9 in parentheses since you're subtracting a negative. And then we're going to take -6 minus a -7, also in parentheses since we're subtracting a negative. Okay, so we're taking our second y value, subtracting our first y value to find the difference. Then we're taking our second x value and we're subtracting our first x value from it to get the difference. So -2 minus a negative, we're really adding there. -2 plus 9 gives me 7. And then I got -6 plus 7, which is going to give me 1. Okay, so 7 is my slope. 7 over 1 is equivalent to 7. So let's just put a box around that. We're going to save it, and we're going to include it in our equation over here in just a second. All right, so now I want to rewrite this equation out as y equals, remember slope is the m, x is always attached to the slope. We found the slope, it is 7. So I'm going to put a 7 right there where the m goes. X is next to it, plus b. I have no idea what my y-intercept is, but this is the next part to find, the y-intercept, also known as the part on the graph where your line is going to cross the y-axis. So in that line with that line right there, that point that I just marked is where it's crossing the y-axis. That would be the y-intercept. So how do we determine where a line that goes through this coordinate and this coordinate are going to cross the y-axis? Well, one thing we know about the y-axis is on a Cartesian plane, that's where x is not 4, not 3, not 2, not 1, but 0. When we are on this line right here, x is 0. So what we want to do is we want to either put a 0 in if we know what it is. So sometimes you'll be given a point with 0 something. Oh man, they didn't give us that in this problem. So we can't really go about it that way. But if there was like a 0, 6, okay, you just say, boom, 6 is my y-intercept and you'd plug it in. Unfortunately, we can't go that route because the 2 coordinates that were given to us do not have an x value of 0. But what they do have is an x and a y, and if you look at this equation right here, we're trying to find b, and we need an x and a y to be replaced, so b is the isolated variable all by itself. So you can either choose to use this coordinate here or this coordinate here. It's really your choice. I like -6 and -2. It looks like it'll be a little simpler for me, so I'm going to plug in a 7 times x, which in this case my x is a -6. And then I'm going to put a y value. I got to make sure I use the connected point. So I can't take this -6 and use that -9. I got to use the same coordinate for both parts. So -6 goes there. Y is -2. That's going to go right there. And then I just got to do 7 times -6. So that's going to give you -42 plus b is equal to -2. Now we're in a one-step equation. Let's get b all by itself, isolate it by inverse operating -42. Opposite of -42 is adding 42. That will cancel that out. We're going to add 42 over here. -2 plus 42 gives me +40. So now we know what our b is, and it's time for us to give our final answer. Remember, it's y equals mx plus b in slope-intercept form. We're going to say y equals, what was that slope that we found early on? 7. So I'm going to put 7 where m is. X is always attached to your slope. And then your y-intercept is where the b is. So we found b to be 40. I'm going to put 40 in right there. And we are done. We have written a slope-intercept form equation, given 2 points, by first finding the slope using y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That provided me with the slope. I plug the slope in where m is. I replace x and y with two values. I stole those values from here. I could have used these values over here. I would have got the exact same result, okay? Now I multiply these two parts together, giving me negative 42. That leaves me with b and a constant on the right side of the equation. Inverse operations moves it over, and then we have what the value of b is. You've got your slope, you've got your y-intercept, put it all together, and that's how it's done. Study hard and good luck on your upcoming test.